Hello, buses. How are you? It's Kylie. Always sing my name. That just seems to be what I do. How are you? It's Tuesday and it's a beautiful day in Australia. We're so blessed. I was thinking last night, I was feeling pretty tired as I shared yesterday in my live yesterday. I was feeling pretty tired after having my kiddo at home with me last week because he had quite a few days off school because he was sick, and then had this extracurricular activity, which was his birthday party, and we made this amazing piñata, and I had lots of fun at the party, and I made had planned the cake and do all that sort of stuff and the decorations. So it was like really fun, but I was really exhausted and I hit the wall. And then I was writing in my journal about it, and I went, all the people who have been homeschooling their kids, all the people who have been in lockdown and quarantine, man, like I can really appreciate the cabin fever that you must have. Like your nervous system must be, really taking a taking a belting from that. And I just went, what am I complaining about? Like, yeah, I was tired and grumpy, but I have been so blessed with just how the pandemic has impacted me. It definitely has. I mean, I'm not in Sydney anymore. I packed up my life in Sydney when pandemic hit, and then I came to Queensland to be closer to my family. My parents had some health issue stuff going on, and so I got the pandemic definitely did reconfigure my life, but there's been so many blessings from that. And yeah, so I'm like, man, like I have actually really only got a lot of positive impacts on my life from the pandemic, even though it was like being shaken up in a little snow dome for a little while. So I thought that's probably an interesting thing to talk about with uncertainty, because even looking forward, we still don't know when the world is going to be kind of opening up again, when our country is going to be opening up again. Australia is doing so well because we are so closed, right? And, one of the things that I have always enjoyed doing is travel, as I'm sure many of you. And so planning, like if I'm not traveling, to plan my next trip, because that also gives me something to look forward to. And so clearly there's lots of beautiful places that we can travel to in Australia, but when are we going to get to go overseas? And I'm part of a mastermind that is based in America and LA, and so they're going to be having an event later in the year, and I'm like, well, will I go to that event or not? And like, what could I like, how do I make plans when we're in the middle of a pandemic still? So I think uncertainty is something that impacts us a lot, just normal everyday uncertainty and normal everyday life outside of living in the times of a pandemic. If you're starting out in your business, if you're creating a new business, or you are navigating the impacts of the pandemic on your business, so you're pivoting, or you're looking at that long-term goalpost of getting through, surviving, thriving as best you can in the time of the pandemic, there's so much uncertainty. You might be wondering, be feeling like, well, when am I going to get my next client? When is my next client going to come in? That's always can be quite uncertain if you don't have like a really, robust lead generation funnel or system for bringing new clients into your business. You might be on a fertility journey. I mean, let's face it, we're all women here. So some of us might not want to have families, and some of us definitely do want to have families, and so there's a lot of uncertainty around when do we have our children, and is it going to work for us? Is it going to be easy for us to have our kids? And am I running out of time? When's the best time? How is it going to impact my business? What changes would I need to make inside my business if I'm pregnant? When I have my little one, like. When am I going to be able to return to full-time work? There's just so many unknowns. You might also have like a health diagnosis, or just lots of stuff around health, really, where you might be diagnosed and you don't know what the implications of that diagnosis is going to be for you in the long term, or like where you can get treatment, or how your treatment's being delayed or impacted by living in the time of the pandemic. So there's a lot of uncertainty that is just normal part of everyday life. And then of course there's relationships. So are we going to get through this period? If you're in a relationship and a romantic partnership, and you're under a lot of financial stress, or you're under enormous strain from all of the turmoil that you're currently experiencing, you might have uncertainty around your relationship. And uncertainty can really rock your world. It can really take all of the wind out of your sails and really bring you to your knees. And so I think it's a really valuable conversation to have, to address uncertainty, to look at how it's impacting you, and to consider some things that you can do in the moment. Because without having a deep reservoir of grit, of resilience and resourcefulness to draw upon, it will take you out of the game, right? And so, this is what I was also mentioning yesterday in yesterday's live, was about the need to fill our cup. We need to fill up our cup so that we're not giving from the dregs of an empty cup. We need to build our cup and fill our cup. Now, I see, and something that I help my clients to work through, is that we always have a choice. And a lot of times when we're feeling overwhelmed or we're feeling really uncertain, there's often can be a conflict. So we might be feeling drawn by what we should do, or some kind of external influence on what we should be doing. And the conflict lies between that and what we genuinely want to do. What is our genuine truth in the matter? And so that will often present itself as either confusion or I don't know. So if you're like, I don't know what I want, then if you drill deeper with that, it's very, very likely that you're not acknowledging what you actually do want. And there's an influence that is acting upon you that is probably in opposition to what you actually want. So you think that you should be doing something else. Now, when facing like these huge uncertainty, a lot of people will tend to focus on what is at stake. So the loss that they could experience, the pain that they might feel, the calamity if the sky does fall. Now, when we're talking about the future and we're talking about things that are completely beyond our control, the calamity might be an outcome, it might be a reality, but it might not. There is no certainty that the calamity is going to be the outcome. And so what people tend to think is that if they focus on the calamity, if they focus on the loss, if they focus on the pain and the grief and the anguish and all the things that are at stake, that they're going to somehow safeguard themselves against feeling the impact of that loss when it happens. And it's simply not true. Because what you're actually doing is you're taking that loss, and instead of it actually being experienced when there is an event that actually justifies it being experienced, you're drawing it all out so that it's like your current lived experience now. And so it's like you actually will prolong the experience, and you suffer probably more in the long run, but you're suffering at this lower rate over this extended period of time to avoid having any shock from that painful outcome. And so it really is it's just not functional. It's really not helpful. It's not helpful to focus on your potential loss. It's not helpful to focus on, the grief and the anguish that you're going to feel if something bad happens in the future. It's just not, it's not worth your time and your energy and your precious life force. So I would suggest not doing that, because the other impact of really focusing on what's at stake is that you tend to feel anxious now, and you feel overwhelmed now, even though it hasn't happened. It's just a possibility that it might happen. And then when you try to make any kind of decision, instead of being able to make a decisive decision, you're going to doubt and second guessing and I don't know, but what ifs, and uncertainty dominates your entire lived experience, which is just torture. Why would you do that to yourself? Why do that to yourself? And so instead of doing that and then being rendered completely incapable of making powerful decisions and being the captain of your boat, instead of being captain of your boat, you're in the life raft vomiting over the back of the boat and the back of the life raft because the sea's so choppy. And you're like, all bail out of the ships, all hands into the lifeboats, and like your boat, your real boat, it's just no one's navigating the real boat. Your ship, right? No one's there because you bailed into the lifeboat and you're vomiting over the side of the boat because it's like so tumultuous and it's like horrible and you're anxious and overwhelmed and it's just a disaster. So don't do that. That's when you focus on what is at stake for something that is uncertain. So in the case of your business, you're focusing on, you might be focusing on the fear of losing your house or being destitute or having to declare bankruptcy or, losing all of your clients and having to let go of your staff or having to sell off all of your assets, having to start again from scratch. So that is not going to be the kind of state of being that is going to help you to powerfully navigate through tumultuous times. That is just you committing hurry, stabbing yourself, destroying yourself before you actually face this potential terrible situation in the future. And so don't do that. Don't do that. Don't emphasize your anxiety. Don't give yourself reasons to feel anxious because of having to go through a difficult time. So often we're afraid of how we're going to feel in the future if something bad happens. It's not so much the bad thing that happens, it's how we feel. We're afraid that we're not going to cope. We're afraid that we're not going to be able to handle it. And we're afraid that we might get judged by others. This might show up in terms, for example, infertility. I've been on a fertility journey and it's terribly uncertain. It's so painful. It's like the most desired core value of mine was to have children, to have a family, to have my own children. And I was diagnosed as medically infertile. And so, for all that I'm saying right now, when I was in that, I was like, but what if I never have a family? What if I never get to be a mum? I'm very fortunate that I am blessed with a very healthy, gorgeous, adorable little boy who's absolutely worth having enormous courage and resourcefulness and resilience to get through that journey. But if you're focusing on what's at stake, then you're in a state of stress, you're in a state of anxiety and overwhelm, you're in a state of flight or fight, and those things are not conducive to getting pregnant. So it's like, don't do that. It's like you can't just flip a switch, but you can choose where you place your focus. You can choose to interrupt where your mind is, and you can learn tools to help you with that, and you can get support with that. And this is, of course, where my mastery comes in. This is part of my superpower. I help my clients to change where they place their focus. So instead of focusing on what's at stake and the pain and the loss, we focus on what it is that we're creating, what it is that we want, what it's going to feel like when we get there. What will our life look like when we actually sail through the troubled waters and we're on the other side? How will we feel when we actually receive that future that we want, whether it be we receive a amazing award for our work, or we get that testimonial from a client who is so happy and their lives have been transformed, or we look at our bank balance and it's like we have more than enough to pay all of our bills, to build our nest egg and to grow our team. Like, how do we feel when we're constantly getting new leads and new inquiries from potential clients about our services or our products? And so when we're tuning into that, when we're feeling that state of where we want to go and the possibility that is contained and what it is that we actually want to do and what it feels like to be on the other side of those troubled waters, then that is the space where you can make decisions. And for me, thinking about my life, my future life that I want, the future life of my choosing, the one that I'm going to vote for with my thoughts and my daydreams and my visualizations, when I think about that life and I feel into, what does it feel like to wake up in my beautiful home and take my green juice out and overlook, like stand on my balcony and overlook, and I can see, water views peeking through the trees, and I know that I can walk down to the beach and it's just like a 10-minute walk, and that my son he's healthy, he's happy, and we do homework together and we read books together and we have playtime, we have some fun on the weekend and we go for rides through the bush, and when I do my work, it's like I'm working with the most amazing clients who are getting incredible results, and when I tune into that, that's the space that I want to be making decisions from. Such a different space. So that is the space that I invite you to play with, to really think, what is it all about? Like where is it that you want to head? And when you get there, what does it feel like to be you in that environment? What does it feel like to be you experiencing that success that you are working towards, that you're setting sail for? What does it feel like to sail into that harbour, to see the beauty, to enjoy the scenery, and to enjoy what life is like in that land, in that time and space? So I hope that's helpful, and if you would like some help in being able to shift out of the focusing on the fear and the loss and the pain and the anguish, so that you can actually navigate your own troubled waters, or whatever challenge is presenting to you at the moment. If you'd like some help with that, and you're a business owner, and you can join me on a call. Now, there's a link in the description of this video above or below this video, and you can book a call with me, a breakthrough session with me, and we'll get on the phone, we'll get on a Zoom call for about 45 minutes to an hour. We'll look at what's not working for you and where it is that you actually want to go. And then we'll see how we can join the dots for you. If you'd like any help with that, please make sure you book that call, and I'll see you there. Otherwise, please share with me anything that you found helpful from this conversation, and just drop a comment. I love reading all of your messages. Okay, bye.